So I spend a lot of time looking at houses on Zillow. And lately, I noticed that even in places where houses are usually expensive, they seem even more expensive. Like here in the San Francisco Bay Area.
What has the last year been like?
It's shocking. Buyers are paying 15 to 20% above asking price now. I had a listing in South San Francisco, 32 offers, 31 very unhappy buyers.
For years, the Bay Area has been an extreme example of how difficult it is to find affordable housing in the US. It's where Silicon Valley bus drivers sleep in their cars at night because they can't afford housing near work, and where school teachers can't afford to live in the counties they teach. But it's not just the Bay Area. The lack of affordable housing is a national problem, and right now it's worse than ever.
We've seen over the last year housing prices reach a level that they've never reached before in American history. They kind of just look like a rocket ship, going to the moon. Housing prices reaching a median of $350,000 for the median American home.
Those prices have made rents more expensive and have made homeownership less attainable for millions of Americans.
So, why is this happening? And how do we bring that rocket ship closer to Earth? We can think of today's housing prices in terms of a supply and demand problem. On the demand side, there are
American housing is in crisis. Right now, up to 12 million Americans are behind an average of $5,800 on rent and risk eviction. With eviction moratoriums soon to expire, we're facing an unprecedented wave of evictions and foreclosures that will crash straight into millions of struggling families across the country. But the truth is, this crisis didn't begin with the pandemic. In fact, housing has been in crisis for a very long time. Even before the pandemic, in places like New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco, median rents for even one-bedroom apartments could approach $2,500 a month or more. About a third of people in Los Angeles spend a majority of their income on housing. In New York City, about 20% of all renters pay most of their income to their landlord. And in my district, Astoria, about a quarter of residents have to spend most of their paycheck on rent. And the crisis isn't just in big cities. In 95% of all US counties, workers making the minimum don't make enough to afford a one-bedroom rental on their own. The Harvard Center for Housing Studies warns of a new normal for housing in the United States, in which nearly half of all renter households spend almost a third of their income on rent. That's why even before the fallout from the coronavirus started to hit, more than 500,000 Americans nationwide were already homeless, millions more on the brink of losing their housing, and countless families struggling every month to make ends meet. At the root of all of this suffering is the fact that in this country, housing is treated as a commodity, not a right. It's a consumer product, just like clothes or cars, that private
Apparently 100 years ago, there were witches that actually lived here, but that hasn't stopped it from being one of the most popular houses on the market this year.
There's a huge hole as you walk in the front of the house. We've put a bit of plyboard there, but we're still recommending that people step over that if they can. Some of these houses, they're in such bad condition that we have to actually get people to sign waivers just so they understand what they're walking into. We've had over 1,000 inquiries online. We've shown about 60 people through the home, sent out 30 contracts. Look, the market feedback's been anywhere 1.3 and 1.4 million. So it just makes it a really great raw site for someone looking to renovate. Kevin, do you want to look inside here as well?
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're lucky.
Very lucky.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to sell. So we open the bidding, ladies and gentlemen, at $1,100,000. I thank you for that, sir. 1.5. At $1,600,000 I have. Wholesaling at $1,918,000. Sold, sir. Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great afternoon.
Alarms are going off in Sydney, known as Australia's bellwether property market. The coastal city ranks as the second least affordable housing market in the world among 94 major cities.
This rush is very overwhelming.
There's not enough supply and there's too much demand.
Now, I've been selling in the area for the last 18 years. The Sydney market is the strongest in Australia, and that has to do with the beaches, the accessibility to the city.
In the world of finance, we are often quick to forget the tragedies of the past, yet valuable lessons are to be had by exploring their causes and effects. After all, in a world of ever-changing rules, products, and services, history is the one constant that can guide us through the ambiguity. So let's take a 5-minute history lesson on today's Plain Bagel. It's the early 2000s, and investors are looking for new, safe sources of return. Stocks and bonds are still pretty popular, but the tech bubble at the turn of the century showed them that getting your money back from bankrupt firms can be a bit difficult. But what about mortgages? That's right, mortgages, the loan you take out when you want to buy a home. After all, for mortgage lenders, these loans are a lot like bonds with bonuses. You receive regular interest payments, and if the borrower defaults, you get possession of their house, which is a handy fallback because with real estate prices on the rise, recovering your losses is no problem. But investors don't want to buy the individual mortgages of Kate, Sue, and Bill down the road. No, my friend, that's where investment banks come in. These institutions, with their large capital and industry expertise, decide to buy up mountains of mortgages from lenders, pool them together, and then sell shares of the pool to investors as mortgage-backed securities, meaning that home buyers now pay investors their mortgage payments. Ain't that nifty? Investors sure think so, and soon enough people are flocking to investment banks to buy up their securities. And it's not just banks doing this. The government, in an attempt to boost mortgage lending, is using the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, two sponsored corporations, to do the same thing. Soon enough, lenders are facing a seemingly endless demand for their mortgages, which they're more than happy to part with. Because every time they sell the rights to their interest payments, they get their money back, which they can loan out again. So mortgage lending and home buying kick into hyperdrive, and investors are getting pretty rich in the process. But other companies, seeing the gravy train running full speed in the investment space.
Take a look at this housing development in Kitchener, Ontario. The plan was to build 4 condo towers, complete with a rooftop sports field. It would have added more than 500 residential units to an area where housing is pretty tight. Things look good. The project got city approval in 2020, and the first tower was supposed to be move-in ready by 2024. But that didn't happen. Instead, only one of the 4 towers was started, and it wasn't finished. This project is one of more than 200 housing developments that went insolvent just in the last year alone. That rate of insolvency is nearly 50% higher than the 10-year average. And many of these developments are big buildings that could have housed hundreds, often even thousands of people.
Real estate-related insolvencies have been number one by a significant margin for the last year.
And the experts we spoke to say this is only going to get worse at a time when there is a huge need for more housing.
There's 2 completely opposite thoughts. The public is told endlessly there's a housing supply problem, like endlessly. It's just infinitely repeated. And then the public now has to say that, oh yeah, nobody will buy them.
So what's going on? Let me start by showing you how these projects are supposed to work, and then I'll show you where it all goes wrong. So normally, a developer buys some land, draws up some plans, and gets all the right approvals from the city. Then, before a single shovel hits the ground, they're starting to sell units. Generally,
I represent the rent is too damn high party. People are working 8 hours a day and 40 hours a week to some a third job. Women can't afford to take care of their children, feed their children breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My main job is to provide a roof over your head, food on the table, and money in your pocket. This is politics as usual. Playing a silly game. It's not going to happen. The rent too damn high movement, the people I'm here to represent can't afford to pay their rent. They're being laid off right now as I speak. They can't eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Listen,